Welcome to Ion Radio. I'm John.
And I'm Ken.
And as you can see, we got a new place we're recording.
So this is our first battle that we're going to do from our new studio, and we did at the same time create ourselves into the Ion Radio Media Group. And John, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about what we're going to change.
So because now we're a media group, we're doing away with the mask for now, and we're going to be following all of our local government provisions on COVID and such, so screening and all that fun stuff.
And we're still going to do our best to social distance, with a couple exceptions.
Correct.
So we're going to jump, I think, right into a Rebellion in the Rim campaign.
Yes, we are. So as we've talked in the end of our previous Rebellion in the Rim, there are a few things that we would like to change. So we're not going to implement all the changes that we talked about in that video, but we are going to attempt to make a little changes here and there to see how it goes. We don't want to go crazy right off the bat.
Right. We felt that it would be best just to give a couple things, little minor changes, little tweaks that we think will work, and all this will be available to download off of our Facebook page, so go check us out there. So let's talk about what things we have changed. So first we're going to talk about a couple changes we have to the setup of the campaign, and there's really only two big ones. First one is our base defenses. So each one of our bases, this time we're playing 2 fleets each, correct? Instead of 3. So we're going to make sure each base that we create has a different base objective. And then the first one we decide to build during the course of the campaign has to be the third one. Then we get another set of them, and that way we have some diversity in our base defenses.
So we do this mainly because playing the same objectives all the time gets kind of boring. Mm-hmm. And then for you guys at home, that you should be able to see a wider variety of objectives played. Which goes right into our second rule when we're making fleets, that every fleet on a side, so this game I'm going to be playing the Empire and Ken's going to be playing the Rebellion, we're going to have different objective cards inside of our fleets. So all of our fleets can't take Surprise Attack, Contested Outpost, and Solar Corona.
No, we're going to have to force the change, and I think we also decided in the event we build a completely different fleet to replace it, we can't reuse one of the existing objectives in the 2 fleets.
Correct. Though we're treating the objective cards as unique cards.
The other thing we're going to do, because this is already well past Wave 8 being released, we are not going to allow the Onager nor the Starhawk to be included in this campaign. That does include the Pivotal Battle command ship upgrade. We will not be allowing them at that time.
We both felt that putting a Starhawks are hard to kill with 400 points of ships, let alone 200 points of ships that are not necessarily optimized. And the same goes for the Onager. The Onager, having the opponent deploy in a 3-foot section across from you, we feel that it would be too powerful and be able to snipe the entire board off the bat. And that just wouldn't be a fun game to play, let alone watch.
So the other things we're changing during the course of our games, we are going to change one thing about scoring. Well, actually 2. First is we are going to apply the crippled status to every single ship on the map.
This is something that we talked a lot in our videos about doing at our end of report. Like, sometimes ships would survive with 1 point of damage and they're the only ship left. So we are going to attempt this campaign as kind of an experiment overall to see what would happen if Armada went to a crippled status for all ships. Do you mind explaining what the crippled status is?
Sure. So those of you with the Super Star Destroyer, you already know when you've hit at least half, or you've created as much as half the damage of a ship. So in this case, let's take a CR-90 with 4 hull points. Once it has 2 damage cards, it is considered crippled. It does have to have those 2 damage cards at the end of the game, so if you repair it on turn 5 or 6, it ceases to become crippled. We do think this could potentially change a little bit of the style of play, which might be an interesting thing to go along with the experiment, because now we might change up what our round 5 and 6 commands are going to be.
Correct. Also, objectives that change what the outposts do change how you would play as well.
Right. Going along those same lines, we are going to still implement the tournament rule for tabling. So if all of your ships that are not flotillas are removed from or destroyed and no longer part of the game, The game will end at the end of that round.
So, like, you were actually saying it correct. When they're no longer ships that are non-flotillas, because you could technically jump away a ship and then have only flotillas left.
Right, so we will, when they're not on the map.
Yeah.
And then you would score, I believe we said whatever the total fleet cost is
Correct.
in victory, or your margin victory points.
Correct. Also, with that, the squadrons and flotillas, theoretically, that are left on the board will be counted as destroyed for points, but they are not counted as destroyed for scarring purposes.
That's a good point, John.
Moving right on to scarring. There's a little tiny loophole in the rules for the campaign, which state that squadrons that are scarred are deployed and then reduced by 1 damage. So what we did in our previous campaign is you could then take that squadron and immediately land it on the outpost, healing it back up to full health, which kind of got around that whole idea of it being scarred to begin with. So we're going to say that squadrons that are scarred cannot be healed to their full health.
So it's essentially a permanent damage and it's just gone. If you want to get rid of that, you have to unscar the squadron.
Correct.
So now one other thing we did talk about rather extensively in our campaign wrap-up were some of the not the ally tokens, the strategic tokens.
Correct.
And we decided to make changes to a couple of them. And the first one, right off the bat, is the ally token, because John really made good use of that in the last campaign.
I feel like the ally token is the most powerful effect in the entire game for Rebellion in the Rim.
So we toned it down. And we just completely replaced the section where it said you have to choose one of 2 options. And the 2 options we decided to include, instead of being any ship up to 45 points, it's going to be 1 flotilla. You can choose which type of flotilla you want, and you may have 1 fleet support upgrade installed to it. So that's your first option. John, what's the second option?
The second option goes along with the same that is in the Rebellion of the Rim. The Rebellion of the Rim allowed you to take 3 fighters up to 45 points. We felt that this was too powerful, so we have it limited now to 2 non-unique irregular squadrons, maximum points of 40. And we chose this point specifically for the fact that we don't want to have 2 decimators come into play at the same time. This allows you to take 2 of any of the other non-unique irregular squadrons at the same time, along with all but a gauntlet and a decimator. So we've eliminated 2 combinations, double decimator and decimator gauntlet. And then only 2, because 3 squadrons started getting ridiculous.
That was nuts. It really was.
So while this hurts the Empire a little bit more, we came to the agreement that this was a fairer compromise.
It also doesn't really boost the rebellion as much as it would have. So this is going to be interesting to see how this particular token plays out.
Correct. The next token that we changed was the Skilled Spacer. We're going to be using it the same way that it is currently, which is if you spend the token, you can add an additional veteran at the end of the round if possible. And we're going to add an effect that you have to choose. You can assign it to a fleet at the beginning of a battle, and it will be used as a one-time exhausted veteran token for any squadron.
And it doesn't matter if it's a regular squadron or unique squadron. If it's a non-veteran squadron, you can use your Skilled Spacer token. You get it for 1 game.
Correct. So our idea behind this is Skilled Spacer sounds like you just went to the local cantina, hired a really good pilot, and threw it in a fighter, so that's kind of why we decided to go with that.
So the other token that we decided to play with was the Spynet token. And I think if I remember correctly, Spynet basically says you can redeploy your ships at the conclusion of the deployment.
1 ship at the
Or 1
conclusion.
We're going to do a slight change to that. Well, actually, not necessarily a slight change. We're going to add an effect here. And what we're going to do is state that if you have a Spynet token with a fleet, after you've deployed 1 ship, you may use a single Spynet token to pass on your next deployment. So for an example, if I place a ship down, John, you deploy a ship, I could then spend a Spynet token, forcing you to do the next deployment.
Yes. We aren't going to be able to do it on 2 consecutive turns, though.
And we figured that'd be a little too powerful.
So for the most part, with it only being a 3x3, moving it to one side or the other doesn't have that big of an effect, but maybe allowing you to gain just a slight bit of information and your opponent not have information would be of a benefit. I still think it's the weakest token in the bunch, though.
So now let's talk about the one change we made in the pivotal battle. And this was something we talked about both during the pivotal battle, well, after we played it, and afterwards in the campaign wrap-up. And that's once the pivotal battle's over, you get tons of commander experience, and you can't spend it.
Correct.
So we're adding a step. So after the determined battle effects phase in the pivotal battle wrap-up, we're going to allow the commanders to spend their experience points and gain some new skills.
Yeah. I feel that if you watched our campaign, we had slow growth from round 1 into round 2 into the pivotal, and then there's no growth after the pivotal until we were done with round 2,
Right.
or act 2. And then we spent all of our points and had a climactic battle. This will allow us to consistently expand the experience of our commanders during the game.
So hopefully you guys enjoy watching us play with some of these tweaks that we have under the Ion Radio house rules. Again, these are all downloadable from our Facebook page. There'll be a link in the description below. So now the best part of the intro to the campaign is building up our task forces. So once again, I've taken the Rebels, John is taking the Empire. So let's go into the fleets. We're going to alternate between them. And let's start with Admiral Drayson's fleet on the Rebel Alliance. I have 2 MC-30s, a torpedo frigate, which is my flagship, and that ship includes assault proton torpedoes. The MC-30 Scout has the expert shield techs on there. Hopefully that can get a little bit of usage out of that. And then I have 3 squadrons. Dash Rendar in the Outrider, Kanan Jarrus on the Hawk 290, and 1 generic Lancer pursuit craft. Master Gunner 1 is the special ability for Admiral Drayson. Objectives for this fleet: surprise attack, asteroid tactics, and salvage run.
Okay. My fleet's for the Empire. I had to come up with names for my admirals or commanders, and as you guys all know, my favorite commander actually in the game is Admiral Sloane. So I've decided to go with Captain Sloane. These are the beginning years, and she's learning how to exhaust those defense tokens still. So she's going to be my first leader. She's going to start with Master Navigator 1. She hasn't realized yet that she really wants to command squadrons. I have her placed on my flagship, an Imperial 2 Star Destroyer, starting the game with Gunnery Team's upgrade card. And that's it for my ships. I'm running a 1-ship list. My rest of my fleet are fighters. I have Colonel Jundon and Merrick Steele, because they always go together, along with 2 additional TIE Defender Squadrons. I've gone very fighter heavy with my objective cards for this fleet. I have Precision Strike, Fighter Ambush, and Superior Positions. The idea for this fleet is that if I can get first player, my Star Destroyer should be able to move in and destroy things easily with the help of all of the fighters.
My second task force is commanded by Captain Afyan. He has the Master Coordinator 1 skill, and his flagship is an assault frigate Mark IIB. In fact, everything in this task force ship-wise is from Wave 1. So again, flagship is the assault frigate with Gunnery Team. I have a Nebulan B escort frigate using the linked turbo laser towers, and a CR-90B. I only have 1 squadron at the start here, and that's Nora Wexley, and I'm hoping to get a couple more squadrons with this particular fleet. For objectives, similar to one of John's fleets, I have Precision Strike, Fighter Ambush, and Dangerous Territory.
My second fleet is commanded by Lieutenant Tanbris, who also has Master Navigator 1. He is on his flagship, which is a Quasar 1 fire class carrier. It has flight controllers. My second ship in this fleet is a Victory 2 class Star Destroyer that has gunnery teams on it. I have, for fighters, Howlrunner, Mauler Mithel, and then 2 TIE Fighters. I have for objectives Surprise Attack, Contested Outpost, and Solar Corona. Hopefully I can expand my fighter complement for this fleet. Only starting with 4 TIE Fighters is kind of weak, but hopefully over the course of the next few games I can add to that.
So here we are now looking at the campaign map for the Outer Rim. And wide open, John, as the Imperials, you get to place the first base. Where are you going to go?
My first base is going to go on Montrose. I think this is a very important base due to the fact that it is a fighter planet.
So, to kind of counteract that and stay in the same area, the Rebels are going to have a base on the planet of Kessel.
I did not see that as your second pick. It's an interesting one. I believe you're going after those resources.
Maybe.
My second planet is going to be the planet of Magito because I would like those resources as well, and I feel that it's a very strategic location on the top of the map.
Alright, then for my final base, I'm going to have the Rebels with a base at Smuggler's Run. Again, same thing, squadron heavy. I think that's a good place to start. Not as good as Montrose, but you already took that. So now that we have gone through our task forces, we've placed our bases, we're going to get into the action, and that will be the start of our next video.
I'm really excited to play both of my fleets. Not really excited to play your fleets, though. I'm kind of concerned about your MC-30 fleet.
I'm actually hoping that I can win a couple games this campaign, and let's see if we can't make this a little bit more interesting for you guys. But we're going to find out, aren't we, John?
Yeah, so part of my planning process was, if you look at my fleets, if you combine them into one fleet, both of my fleets put together are like one big fleet if I had the points to do that. So that was kind of my thinking on doing that.
Yeah, I'm a little afraid of the pivotal battles with your particular 2 fleets. I think that's where I'm going to get hurt. I think one-on-one, especially my MC-30 fleet, ought to do well.
Yeah. So we're going to be releasing very shortly our videos of the first round. And in that we're going to talk about where we're attacking. So coming soon.
Stay tuned. You guys stay safe. Till then, I'm Ken.
I'm John, and you've been watching Ion Radio.